City of Cape Town leading the way when it comes to Eskom. Microsoft declared its earnings beating expectations, but is it going to be enough? And we have found a hack to US30 as well as NASDAQ. Stick around. This is Pounds for Breakfast. Good morning and welcome. I'm your host, Dane van der Mast, on this beautiful Wednesday morning, the 25th of January. Guys, we have a ton to discuss. There's a ton of things we need to get into. But we're going to start off with the news and leading with some positive data, speaking about Eskom for once. Again, guys, thank you for joining us this morning. Let's just jump straight into it. First and foremost, City of Cape Town in South Africa is leading the way on the troubled power institution, saying that they will pay for anyone who's able to supply power into the grid. Now, we've always said this is an ideal solution in a sense that we allow private power providers to put power back into the grid to solve this issue. We have former CEO of FNB saying just ditch Eskom and create our own solutions. These two articles come in hand, and I think City of Cape Town is leading the way. This is the only alternative to getting the power situation back online. Looking into international news, Microsoft declared its earnings last night. It beat expectations by a hair. So if we have a look at that Microsoft earnings report, they had an estimate to come in at $2.29 on their estimate, and they came in at $2.32. That is a 1.16 surprise towards the top side. However, on the earnings side, they had an estimate of 52.98 billion, and they came in 52.74 billion, meeting revenue expectations by just under 0.5%. Now, the big question is, will this be enough? We'll start to see in the New York Stock Exchange how markets respond to this data. It's going to be very interesting because, as you guys know, we have the Tesla earnings call tonight, which is going to be a trade-a-thon. We are going to be trading that live together, which gives us an opportunity to spend some time together, open up the charts, open up the markets. And again, we will look at Microsoft's results and how the markets subsequently react in the opening hours of the New York Stock Exchange. We can utilize that data to have a good expectation of where we could be from a Tesla side of things. Now, again, Tesla stock is hugely undervalued. There's a ton of politics happening there. So again, stick around for that because it is going to be massive. Now, quickly, before we get into some of those fundamentals, I just want to quickly open up that S&P 500 heat map, just so we can see it's a little bit of a mixed bag across the board. Now, as I said in the intro, we have discovered a hack to looking at US30 as well as NASDAQ. Now, again, if you want to see that in full detail, you want to be a part of Dollars for Lunch. It is going to be at 4:15. It is going to be an extended session, so I can take you through these changes and how you can essentially print money in the markets from this very, very simple trend strategy. Okay, so you definitely want to stick around for that. Now, quickly looking at some of those fundamentals this morning, we're going to jump in and just have a look at what sort of data can we take advantage of and where we can obviously look for opportunity this morning. So starting off really quickly, we have the German IFO Business Climate Index. This definitely has an ability to move the euro. So again, if you into the euro, this might be an item that you want to be paying attention to. Very, very simple. Above expectation, above the estimate will be positive for the euro. Below expectation could have a negative impact on the euro. So you definitely want to stick around for that. A really good opportunity and a way of trading this is to simply head into our back office and dive into the trading opportunities there. And simply all you want to do is search under the Forex side of things and look for any sort of euro combinations. Now, again, this is updated hourly. So prior to that release, just give it a scan, have a look. Are there any euro related base or quote opportunities? And that helps you to do your setup when it comes to preparing for that news item coming out. Moving on, we have this afternoon some Canadian news that's coming out at 5 o'clock. That is going to be the interest rate decision from the Bank of Canada, right? Again, as you guys know, this has a big effect on the markets, specifically on the Canadian dollar. You can follow the same technique, go into our back office, look for trading opportunities on the Canadian dollar, and then set up some price action and look for breakouts in that very, very same way. Wrapping up the afternoon, we have some crude oil inventories sitting on the dollar. In addition to that, the other fundamental data is obviously, as I've said, that Tesla earnings call. So again, for those of you who've been present in 2022 for our past earnings calls, it's an insight to sit and listen in with the board, right? Elon gives his representation of what the future looks like, gives explanations for the data, and they post data in terms of the earnings, their estimates, their expectations, what challenges they're facing, and then it's discussed. It's opened up to a board, a closed call that we are able to listen into of people posing questions directly to Elon, understanding the future of Tesla and where it's going. So if you've never been part of it, it is super powerful, even if you're not trading Tesla, to give you a great insight into what the markets have to offer. Again, past earning calls have given us a great idea of where the economy is going. Again, they deploy millions of dollars to analysts to further understand what the climate's going to be like and to adapt and to change accordingly, right? So again, it's a major insight and look in through the window to better understand what is happening in the world. And that wraps up some of our fundamental data. We want to jump now into our analysis section as we open up the markets and just have a look at what opportunities exist for us out there. We will circle back and go through some of the trading opportunities available in the markets because we're going to be focusing on commodities. Again, WTI showing us massive breakout formations in line with Brent. We spoke about this yesterday. I've done a bit of a deeper dive on this analysis just to give you a little bit of perspective here, and I think you guys will enjoy what we have to offer. As always, we're going to start off on the FX side, starting off with that dollar index, just looking at where its strengths lie, because again, the correlation is massive across the markets. So we can see the dollar index is obviously still sitting below that previous support that it broke through, now acting as resistance. And again, we expect to continue seeing that dollar weakness across the board. And that will then obviously transition us into some of the other pairs we're looking at, and that will then move us directly into USD ZAR. Has some opportunities available to us. Again, USD ZAR is in that early breakout formation, just to give you a little bit of perspective on where USD ZAR is. And we can really zoom out to understand USD ZAR is heading towards the top side from a trend trajectory. However, we have been in this pullback since November. So we've had this massive bull run. We've been in a pullback, and the bull run is starting to show signs of breaking out of its formation. Now we're merely looking at this moment in time, where could we potentially look for entries here? And we have not posted this in our favorite section in the back end. We're still waiting for this to be confirmed, but I'm giving you a little bit of early insight into that. So we're basically looking at where could we potentially look for entries, and what we're ideally waiting for in the perfect world is we're waiting for a pullback down towards that psychological support zone, which is going to be that 16 Rand 99 cents to $1. If we get that pullback, that's going to be our ideal entry zone towards that long position. So if you want to go ahead, make some alerts, make some notes there, because that can be a power trade, something that we can hold long term. Again, tying it into the fundamentals of where South Africa is from an Eskom and a power situation and a political position, it's not hard to see the South African Rand losing value over the coming period, regardless of dollar weakness. It's important to understand that. Now, moving into our commodities, we're going to jump in and have a look at what opportunities lie for us in the commodity sector. And we're going to start off that having a look at gold. Gold this morning currently sitting in still its bull trend, but there's a few things here I just want to bring out as a word of caution as we continue to dive deeper in the price of gold. So currently looking at a 1 hour time frame, and I'm just studying this last bull movement, and I just want to point out a couple things here. From an RSI perspective, right, we should still be getting those higher lows, right, to basically line up with the price action, which is those higher lows. But what I'm starting to see here is we might be getting that divergence where we're starting to see the RSI essentially signal to us there might and potentially be a reversal here in this point. We had that triple top, we broke through it temporarily, broke through it once again, and now we're at a critical stage of the price and the story for gold. The big determining factor here is, are we going to see that breakout or that support level over this zone right there, right? So the big question here is, will gold continue to hang out here? And again, a further dollar weakness could continue to cause that bull rally on gold. Now, if we don't see this materialize today, remember, tomorrow afternoon, we have a bunch of fundamental data that could create a perfect storm situation for us on the dollar weakness front, allowing gold to extend its gains towards that top side. So if you're not too confident in this in terms of getting in early, I would definitely recommend wait out for tomorrow's fundamentals to see if we have some opportunities there. Now, in line with what's happening in our back office, I just want to point out some quick analysis that I've done on Brent. And I just want to point out that Brent is obviously in the early stages of that breakout as identified from the price action in our back office. They're represented in a 4-hour time frame. You can see there's a massive bear move that Brent is attempting to get out of. On a daily, it's a little bit clearer, and we can see that Brent is obviously attempted that breakout before, failed, started to make those high lows, and now is essentially pushing out towards the top side. Now, I looked a little bit closer into this, and I can see that we have a bit of extra price action here. Now, we are seeing the price action on a smaller time frame starting to break out of formation, and that definitely means we could start to see that momentum push down towards that $85.70 per barrel. A very similar picture from WTI. Again, they follow very similar trajectories. And again, if you guys have traded WTI or traded Brent, you'll know that it is a very high pip count instrument. It's extremely profitable when done well. We have a very similar price action structure, neater on the side of WTI, and again, I do think we have room here for a pullback towards that $79.94 on that setup. Again, very similar on a smaller time frame. We have that price action showing us an indication that we could be potentially having a further movement towards that downside, just simply mapping out this trend structure here. And you can see we're starting that little bit of a breakout there on a micro time frame. So definitely something we want to be paying attention to. Now moving into the meat of where we are this morning, and that is definitely going to be on indices. So again, we're going to start off on having a look at US30 this morning, and we've identified and found a hack towards trading the New York Stock Exchange. I will be revealing this in a detailed process. We've identified when the movements come into play and what the prerequisites are to have the first movement done and dusted. And what we've seen in summary is that we first see volatility in the market, a little bit of directional movements, but that is ultimately always followed by the true direction which the New York Stock Exchange would like to run over the next couple hours. So for those of you who are looking to get into a trade and hold a trade for a couple hours, running potentially tens of thousands of pips in profit, this is definitely be a strategy you want to deploy. And again, you need to be part of Dollars for Lunch in order to access that. That simply means you have a Globex 360 live account with a minimum of $100 in that account to gain access to the Dollars for Lunch. This simple setup, this revelation will change your trading, it will change your profitability, it will change the way you see markets. I'm going to teach you how to spot these trends and differences on all instrument pairs so that you can go ahead and benefit in your own time as you see fit. Ultimately, it means we're going to break down where these movements happen and why they happen and what is that frequency. However, I just want to point out here that US30 is looking extremely strong to continue with the topic of yesterday. Are we in the next bull run for 2023? And I do believe we are. It's now about catching that next leg of that bull run, which we are very certainly going to catch this afternoon. Having a look at NASDAQ, very similar thing. NASDAQ has started to clear out any sort of doubts that we are in that bull momentum and that bull rally, even with an adjustment from a trend perspective to some of the furthest levels we can potentially look at, which could even be over there. We are still very clearly in that breakout situation from a NASDAQ perspective. Now again, Microsoft is part of that equity group that forms the NASDAQ. It's going to be very interesting to see what is the Microsoft open rate from that earnings report last night, and how does that affect NASDAQ looking into this morning. And again, will the market still be in a little bit of fear or doubt and at least hesitation pending that Tesla information that is coming out this afternoon? So very short. The same trend is also followable on NASDAQ. However, it is most noticeable coming in on US30. I will be revealing that this afternoon as we do our Dollars for Lunch together. So in terms of opportunities this morning, there is definitely opportunities sitting on the commodity side on WTI as well as gold. And again, this afternoon, we could see some massive movements looking at indice markets. On the FX side of things, you want to be paying attention to our back office, which will be representative of our favorite trades that we have listed for you to go and have a look at, do your analysis, make sure it fits your trading strategy, and if so, you can go ahead and take advantage. Other than that, guys, you know the deal. I will see you all for dollars for lunch if you have your Globex 360 live accounts, and in addition to that, we're extending this evening's trade-a-thon to all premium members, so meaning $100 or more, and we will be trading the Tesla trade-a-thon this evening together. I will be sending a link out for that. I will be sending times and updates, as well as what the show will entail, so you know how much time to budget. But again, trade-a-thons are massive. We're going to be taking advantage of other markets. There's going to be some teaching, there's going to be some training, there's going to be some live chat where we can engage. You can ask some questions and we will dive deeper as we go. You know the deal, you know what time it is. Remember to live, learn, and trade the Globex 360 way. Until I see you guys all a little bit later this afternoon. Goodbye.